A Gruffalo? What's a Gruffalo? A Gruffalo? Why, didn't you know? Well, thank goodness, audiophiles, I can take a break from reading stories to my kids while they're home from school and talk about something I love for a change. It's this month's Big Finish Doctor Who monthly release, and you're listening to the Sirens of Audio!
This is not the end! This is only the beginning!
Well, g'day. G'day, it's not that bad, really. It's not so bad. I really do love reading to my kids over and over and over again until I can read without looking at the words. I can just speak the story. I suppose that's what acting is, isn't it? My name's Dwayne, and you're listening to the Sirens of Audio. Thank you for your company. It's going to be a great show tonight. We're going to be looking at Doctor Who Monthly Range number 262, as I mentioned. It is called Subterfuge, written by the extremely talented Helen Goldwyn, who's going to be joining me very shortly to talk about that and many other projects that she does. We're going to be talking about that release, Subterfuge. We're also going to be having a closer look at Doctor Who and the Pirates, having a few words to say about that too. Also, a Big Finish Originals release called Attagirl 2, which is obviously a sequel to Attagirl, which has just been released in the last month or so too. So very much looking forward to Helen coming on very shortly. But to start off, I want to mention to you that next week's show is in the can already. We've got a great show lined up. I've got guest Mark Cockram from Nerdology UK. He's joined me for the next episode, where we're going to be featuring The Kingmaker, one of his favourite Big Finish audios, and what a great audio it is too. So what I want to do is ask if you've got any feedback, please let us know by going to anchor.fm/sirensofaudio, and you can leave up to 60 seconds of audio feedback. I'd love to hear from you, and I can tack that onto the end of the episode and play that next week. How's that sound? Good? Excellent. Right, let's crack on with this episode today. And some Big Finish news. Well, everyone has been affected by the coronavirus. I'm not going to ignore that massive fat elephant in the room. Everyone's being affected, even Big Finish. So they've announced that they're going to be standing down some of their warehouse staff and going to download first. So all releases will be download first. The CD or the hard copies will be mailed out at a later date. So that's good. I mean, most businesses are doing the responsible thing in this difficult time, and Big Finish is no exception. So that's fantastic. Did you see the massive announcement that Big Finish is going to do a new Lost Story version of Return of the Cyberman, which is, well, a story behind that. I didn't even know that Jerry Davis had written a script. Robert Holmes heavily rewrote it and turned it into Revenge of the Cyberman, and apparently the story was quite different. And Big Finish is going to re-release it, or not re-release it, but they're going to remake it, or make the story that never was, with Tom Baker, Return of the Cyberman. Did you see the little video that came out on Big Finish's Facebook feed and other feeds? I think it might be on their website too. I'm not sure, but if you get a chance to have a look at the little video that went as a trailer for Return of the Cyberman, that is absolutely fantastic. I love it. So I'm really looking forward to that. A little bit confused they're announcing it so far in advance. It's not going to be out for another 18 months. So a little bit confused about that. But I was hoping it was a typo because I saw it and wanted to hear it straight away. So I'd be happy to wait till the end of the year, but I'm not going to have any fingernails left by the time November, December 2021 comes, or whenever it was. End of 2021 they said they were going to release it. So maybe it's a typo, I don't know. Maybe it'll get rescheduled. They've also announced that due to coronavirus, a lot of their scheduling has been moved around, so there could be some releases that are brought forward, could be some that are pushed back. You know, these things happen, but we'll adapt, and we've got so much output, always got some high quality stuff to listen to, so always got something good to look forward to every single month from Big Finish. Let's have a listen to the trailer for the story that we're going to have a closer look at this month's Big Finish main range release, Subterfuge.
The TARDIS detected an anomaly. This is a very sensitive year.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Subterfuge.
The screening of personnel at MI5 is exceptionally thorough. There's no way a spy could operate for that long inside the agency without discovery.
Whoever he or she is, they are a traitor of the highest order.
Who's with you?
No one. You don't need that voice disguise.
Get me what I need by tomorrow, or the deal's off.
Everyone, evacuate the area! There's a bomb in this truck!
I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to.
We need to flush that blackguard out.
Interesting how you spent the whole war with a double agent in the ranks and you'd no idea.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes, it's me.
Stay back.
That was more along the lines of what we discussed, wasn't it?
Trust me, you simply cannot lose, Mr. Churchill, and post-war Britain will be all the better for it. Is that Churchill?
Doctor, what are you doing?
We're going to save history.
Big Finish. We love stories.
Meddling with Churchill's campaign? Why?
This is Helen Goldwyn, and I wrote Subterfuge.
Well, thanks so much, Helen, for having a chat with me on the Sirens of Audio. It's a pleasure to have your company.
Well, it's a pleasure to be asked. It's always very flattering to be asked to chat.
I was having a look through the Big Finish website, and the amount of projects that you've had a hand in is absolutely incredible. And, of course, knowing I was going to chat with you, I went to the extras to see if you had anything to say on Subterfuge, and you weren't there. So was that a recording that you weren't at?
That's right. Unfortunately, I couldn't go along to that recording, and usually the writer does try and go along on the recording days, but because I work as a director for Big Finish as well, and I'm constantly writing scripts, I just was too busy. I had too much workload on, so I couldn't go to the studio that day, so I missed out. But I've just listened to it myself.
It's a good problem to have. Being too busy.
Can't complain.
Tell us about the ideas for that story. Amazing story. How was it put to you by Big Finish? Was it your idea, all these elements, or were they put to you specifically?
Well, this was an unusual one. Normally they give me more standalone stories because I'm not hugely au fait with the canon of Doctor Who. Much as I'm a fan, I'm not a mega fan like almost every other Big Finish person is. So whenever I'm told to write for a particular Doctor, I don't have all that information automatically at my fingertips. I have to go and do the research. So for this one, Matt Fitton, who is the editor on this one, or producer, I can't remember, editor, he asked me to set it just after the election, and he wanted me to have obviously Churchill, Seventh Doctor, and the meddling monk in it, and that the meddling monk's agenda was to help Churchill win the election. So those were the parameters I was given. And then I sat for almost a fortnight, I think, clutching my head, thinking, I don't know how to do this. because there was so much research for me to do, because I had to work out where they were in the timeline, how much do the Doctor and the meddling monk know each other, what's the relationship between the Doctor and Winston Churchill, because I hadn't watched or listened to all of those, and also all the research on what was happening on that period in time in England after the war, so it was a lot of reading and researching. Also, I'm not very politically aware. I'm not someone who's ever really got that involved in politics, and so I learnt a lot. I learnt a lot about how socialism began in England, how the NHS began in England, because of course I had to look up about Clement Attlee and see what the meddling monk was trying to counteract. And I mean, obviously we can't be political within Big Finish stuff. We're trying to stay neutral, but I had to make some commentary about the two sides of the argument. One side is going to be socialism for the UK and the other side is conservatism. So, I learned a lot about how that all began. But yeah, I do love that era. I mean, it's very much an era that I feel drawn to. And obviously I've done a lot of research on other projects. So yeah, it's been very educational.
So how long's the process? It was released this month. How long ago did you start the writing process? Tell us about how long it actually takes for a project like this to start, from the writing process to when it's released.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule, because Big Finish is always planning quite far in advance. So there are some things. There's certainly one project that I've written that I think I wrote last year, and that won't be released for another 3 years, I think. But that's something quite special. But in general, I would say you get the brief, and then you write a treatment, and then that treatment has to be approved by the BBC as well as our producer. So that can take a few weeks, and then you obviously have to write your 10,000 words for a 1 hour episode. But Subterfuge was 4 eps, wasn't it? So that's 20,000 words. So I would allocate at least a couple of months for that, because I'm doing other work in between as well. So you're looking to write, 1,500 words a day minimum, more if you can. But yeah, for me, the treatment part is the hardest part, coming up with the plotting. That takes me a couple of weeks. And then after you've written it, it can take a few months for them to get into studio to record it. And then it can take anything from 3 to 12 months for them to release it. So it's a bit of an unwieldy beast.
How would you compare the experience of writing, just writing the script, as opposed to directing it? How did you enjoy, like you said to me, you'd only just heard Subterfuge. How did you enjoy hearing that for the very first time?
Well, I think I'm quite unusual as a writer, because I don't feel precious about it at all. Once it's done, I'm happy to hand it over to someone else and for them to interpret it as they see fit. So I never have a very prescribed version of how I think it should sound. So it's always a delight to hear someone else's take on it, and often the energy of it isn't quite what you expected, and that's always quite exciting for me. Somebody's interpreted your lines in a way that you didn't hear them in your head, and that's always quite pleasurable. It doesn't bother me that it's not how I visualized it. But yeah, I mean, they did such a fantastic job on this one, and obviously the sound effects are always amazing, the music is always amazing, our actors are brilliant, the direction, the pacing is great. So yeah, it's just a pure pleasure to listen to. I never ever listen and think, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that. I'm happy to hand it over to someone else.
And what did you think of particularly Ian McNeice and Rufus in their roles as Churchill and the monk?
Well, I mean, the energy that Rufus brings to it, and that manic laugh, it's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, there's something otherworldly about that character that he's captured brilliantly. And they clearly were having great fun together. And Ian McNeice, his inflection is obviously what he studied for Churchill, and it's not your average delivery. It is a very idiosyncratic way of speaking, and that's always quite exciting to hear as well. Oh, that's how Churchill would have probably said it. So yeah, it's great to hear the energy between them.
Yeah, absolutely. So So overall, you'd rate that as a pretty satisfactory release for you, would you?
I would, with the addition to say that I really struggled with the script. I mean, it gave me a massive headache. I mean, I think that was one of the most challenging scripts I've had to write because of all the background stuff that was going on and all the double crossing, and I had a whole wall full of yellow post-it notes trying to keep track of who knew what and who knew what was going on and who had a relationship with who, and yeah, it really fried my brain in a way that others haven't. But yeah, massively satisfying when you finish 20,000 words and you think, yeah, I think that's working. I think I got it.
Are you the kind of a person who will be offered a project and you just won't hesitate? You'll throw yourself into it no matter what the challenges might be?
I would say normally my motto is just say yes. Just say yes and take it on, particularly if you're scared of it, and trust that somehow you will manage it. And generally in my life that has worked for me. And there have been many, many times where I've been very scared and very anxious and with terrible imposter syndrome as well, where I think, I can't write. Why have you asked me to write that? But I would say last year I had one experience on a script. I won't say which one. And I said yes to it, and then I embarked upon it and realised it was beyond me. It was not my bag at all. And it's the first time in my life that I've encountered a situation where I think I'm actually not capable of doing this. I mean, I managed it, but I needed a lot of support from the editor and producer. And that was quite a lesson. The best part of it was that I felt that I had kind of failed, even though we ended up with quite a decent script. I felt it was the first creative failure I'd had, but I got over it in a couple of days. I think in the past I would have been devastated and thought, oh, that's it, I can never write again. But on this occasion I thought, well, I've got enough of a body of work behind me to trust that I can write. Just on this occasion, this wasn't my cup of tea. This was not for me, and I won't do that kind of script again.
You've got such a diverse back catalogue of not just writing, but you're very diverse in what you do. If you look at your website, you do a bit of everything, not just acting, not just writing. You do singing as well, and all different types of acting as well. So you've got, I think you should definitely the imposter syndrome should get thrown out the door. For sure.
I know. Well, you say that, but we all kind of suffer from it to varying degrees. But part of it is because of being perceived as a jack of all trades. You know, I have to keep telling myself it is possible to be a master of several trades, and that's what I'm aiming for all the time. And I don't diversify because I'm just having a go at different things. It's because I've got this enormous creative urge to express myself in different ways. And the eclectic nature of it is a big part of my personality. It has to be different, a different challenge each time. I don't want the same thing over and over again. Like, I've got friends who've been in West End shows, in musicals. I've got one friend who's been in the same show for nearly 10 years, playing the same part. And I think I would absolutely lose my mind. That's not why I came into the business. I came into the business to be this multifaceted creative.
All right, well, let's go back in time and have a little look about how you got into the business in the first place. And was that at a time when, did Big Finish come along soon after you were in the business, or you'd been acting for a while?
I started acting professionally when I was 19, because I left college with a diploma in performing arts at 19 and started then. So I started with Big Finish 10 years later. Yeah, so I've been going for a long time, mostly in musical theatre, mostly doing sort of classic musicals and concerts and cabarets, a few nice plays, and a bit of voiceover work. But yeah, the Big Finish really opened the door to a whole new world of voice acting for me.
And you started off on a pretty major story with as far as a Doctor Who fan is concerned, a bit of a legend, Nicholas Courtney. Spectre of Lanyon Moor. How did you get into that in the first place, and how did your Big Finish journey start?
It started as many of these big breaks, and I do see it as my big break in life, because I never had anything else resembling a big break, but this little moment in time was for me. And it started because I was friends with Barnaby Edwards and Nick Pegg. I had worked with them both. No, I'd worked with Barnaby in a production of Macbeth, a really small-scale touring production of Macbeth. And we'd become great friends, and I'd met Nick through Barnaby. And they just contacted me one day and said, do you want to come along and do one scene in this Doctor Who audio drama? And I had no idea what that was or what that meant. And I turned up and did this scene, and James Bolan was in it, and Colin Baker, and and the brig, and that was all a bit overwhelming. And I had such a brilliant day. I just loved it. And that's when I emailed Gary Russell, who was the producer and director, I think, or producer at the time. And I said, look, I will do anything you want. I have no shame. I have no inhibition. I will make a total fool of myself doing any character you want. And so he took me at my word and carried on casting me as quite extreme alien voices for quite a long time after that. Brought me in several times to do those characters where you needed no inhibition and you needed to be prepared to look a bit foolish and do some crazy stuff. And that became my niche for a while.
Because you were in the first McGann story, which had some pretty unique aliens in it, weren't you?
Yes.
That was you.
The first three. Yeah, I was all three of those.
Okay.
What did you expect, Frayling? We knew nothing about these creatures, nothing at all. They've been bound for centuries and now they're loose.
Oh, my head. What in the name of... On your feet, Tamworth Lord. On your feet. I declare now, these humans here have made an unprovoked attack upon the Triskele. I, the Uncreator Prime, say this act of aggression cannot go unpunished. Tamworth Lord, as ambassador for humankind, I tell you this. Our states are now at war!
War? Don't you see, Tamworth, Rathbone, Engineer Prime? This is what the Uncreator wanted. This is what it wanted all along.
War! Uncreators! Kill them all!
Yeah, I did the first three with Paul. We all went to Bristol to a studio there because he was living there. And it was quite a big deal. Like this was him testing the water to see if he was interested in doing this kind of thing. And we had a really great time.
So there must have been quite a high vibe going for that production in particular.
Yeah, the stakes were quite high because they really wanted him to see what fun it could be. Which, and of course, legend tells, as it clearly turned out, he did have a great time, and that's all down to me.
Of course.
So thank you for the Eighth Doctor series.
Thank you.
Because that made it so fun for him.
So was it before the McGann story that Tomorrow People came along, or was that after? Where is that in the timescale? Or is it too long ago to remember?
No, I tell you, I can remember it very clearly. That was after, and I remember it clearly because the first episode recorded on my 30th birthday, and it was the first time in my life that I had planned anything for my birthday that was significant. I had hired a house in Devon, in Cornwall, for 10 of my friends and myself and my husband, and we were going to have this lovely country weekend. And as it turned out, I had to fly back from Penzance to London on the Sunday because I had to go and record, because we used to record on a Sunday. And so we all went down on the Friday night. We had Saturday together in this lovely house. And then I flew away. And then they all sang me happy birthday on the phone because I was in the studio recording the Tomorrow People. But I had a feeling that it was something I needed to do. And of course, it then carried on for 10 years. So thank goodness I was able to do that first one.
Did you write a couple of those yourself?
I did. I wrote Stemming the Tide. I can't remember which season that was in, which series. And then I wrote another one called Tandem, which we recorded, but which was never released. It was never completed, actually, in terms of the post-production, because we lost the license because the American TV series began. So that's somewhere in the ether. That's somewhere in the can with Nigel Fairs out there in the ether.
Do you know if there's ever going to be any chance for that to be picked up again and maybe those old episodes re-released?
It's been vaguely discussed a couple of times over the years. I know in theory it's something that Big Finish might be interested in, but I don't think it will happen. I think perhaps that audience has changed and dwindled a little. I mean, of course, we'd all absolutely love to do it again, but I can't quite see it happening. That's my gut instinct. But hopefully I'll be proved wrong. You never know.
Is the Tomorrow People the series where you got to know Louise Jameson really well?
Well, I did work with her. Obviously, she played my mother, but I had come to know her prior to that. We first met at a Doctor Who signing at 10th Planet, I think the shop was called, in North London. And we were all signing Big Finish CDs, and I was sitting next to her on that occasion, and we instantly hit it off. And I remember going home and saying to my husband, oh my God, I've met this lovely actress. And I used to watch her, obviously, in Bergerac and EastEnders. And I remember watching her in Bergerac and thinking, oh God, I would love to look like that. That's my goal, to look like that. And then, of course, I met her and we became quite friendly. And then we didn't keep in touch. And then, weirdly, I don't even know how this happened. I think I sent her a script. Somebody gave her a script of mine. I think I sent her a script, and it was a play that I'd written. And then she phoned me a few weeks later and said she'd finally got around to reading it, and did I want to meet to talk about writing her one-woman show. And of course we ended up working together, and I wrote Pulling Faces for her, which was this one-woman monologue that she took on tour. So yeah, and then we just became the best of friends. I absolutely adore her. She's just the best of human beings. I can't fault her, really.
I actually pulled out Pulling Faces to have a listen before coming on. So yeah, it's kind of different to hear your Doctor Who stars in different settings, particularly if you're a Who fan. So, yeah. But yeah, all those releases that are not Doctor Who from all those Doctor Who stars, they're all brilliant. So
yeah,
really like them. So, and you've gone on to collaborate even further with Louise. Yes. With Louise. So I want to talk to you about that before you go. But there was one story out of when I searched your name, like I said, on the Big Finish website, and 90 search results came up. I thought, oh no, what am I going to have a look at that's and focus on? Well, there was one that stood out to me because I noticed that you've done a lot of singing in your career. So yes. I wanted to have another listen to Doctor Who and the Pirates, which was one of the. I think it might be in the first 50 somewhere.
Yeah.
And I had a listen to that earlier today, and it's something everyone should be listening to, I think, during their periods of isolation, because it could make anyone smile. Possibly. Because it's an interesting story. It's a comedy, but it's also very deep and dark as well. Yeah. But we got to hear you singing, so give us some of your memories of that production, because it's quite different to anything else that Big Finish normally does.
Yeah. I mean, they really invested in it because we needed a musical director and we needed to rehearse the singing. So I think we had a rehearsal, which is unheard of for Big Finish, and I got to work with the fantastic Tim Sutton as the musical director, and he is now a very dear friend of mine and a fellow kind of musical theatre composer. And we got to hear Colin Baker's real musical talent. I mean, he really is. I think he's done quite a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan, but he's got such a flair for that kind of work. And that was a joy to be around. And yeah, I think I was a bit nervous to be singing in front of actor friends. It's quite a different genre. And if you're perceived as one thing and then suddenly you come out and sing, it's quite exposing. Also because it's on this very intense high definition recording, so everyone can hear any flaws in your voice or any mistakes that you make. It's not like singing on stage where you can blag it a bit. This is something that people will hear over and over. So I think I was very nervous, yeah.
Oh no, you are going to sing.
Well, yes, I am the very model of a Gallifreyan buccaneer. I've information on all things a Gallifreyan holds, monsieur. I've linked it to the matrix through its excitonic circuitry. I understand dimensional and relative chronometry. I'm very well acquainted too with matters of the capital. I'll give you a verse and chapter on Panopticonian protocol. I've been into the Death Zone and I played the game of Rassilon. Rassilon? Assilon? Bassilon? Aha. With pestilential monsters that I got a lot of hassle from. With pestilential monsters that he got a lot of hassle from. With pestilential monsters that he got a lot of hassle from. With pestilential monsters that he got a lot of hassle from. I understand each language and I speak every vernacular.
Can you tell me a little bit about Maggie Staples? Because she's a firm fan favourite when it comes to Big Finish companions. What was she like as a person? I can imagine what you're going to say, but give it to me anyway.
Well, exactly what you imagine is true. She was delightful, warm, funny, clever, considerate, humble, sharp. Everything that her character was really in the audios, and yeah, just such a delightful person, encompassing everybody. There was nothing about her that was closed off, and yeah, I was always very happy to see Maggie in the green room. I would think, oh, I'm getting to work with Maggie today. Yeah, she was a delight.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Tell us a bit about the Big Finish original series that you've been involved with called Attagirl, which the first one came out it was a few years ago now, wasn't it? But the second one has just been released in the last month or so.
Yeah. I'm not sure what year we did it. Was it 2017, 2018? But the first one. But yes, I mean, that all came about in quite an unusual way because David Richardson and Louise Jameson kind of corralled me at a recording for something else. They kind of got me off into a separate room and said, oh, we've got something we want to propose. We've got this idea. Louise has had this idea and she wants you to produce it. And I said, oh, no, I'm not a producer. No, that's not what I do. Because I actually didn't understand what the producer's role was. I thought the producer was more of a kind of administrative role, and that I would be having to, hire everyone and manage everything. And that's, yes, I can do that stuff, but I only do that stuff so that I can do the fun, creative bit. And then David explained to me that, no, the producer has the creative overview and gets the final say on, how that all those stories are developed. And then I thought, I still didn't really want to do it, but they persuaded me. And David actually said, oh, it won't be that massive a project. It won't be that big a job, because it's just an overview and you just have to read through the scripts, etc., etc. But of course, what he hadn't taken into account was the humongous amount of research that we had to do. We all had to do. I couldn't just sit there at the top. Also, because I was writing one anyway, we all had to do weeks and weeks of research. So it became an all-consuming project for me in the end, and nearly killed me.
How was it received?
It had the most phenomenal reaction. I mean, we did put our hearts and souls into it, and we felt an enormous responsibility to tell those stories in a responsible way, in a respectful way, and to make them obviously as engaging and impactful as we could. And all that heart and energy and passion that went into it, I think, could be felt. There was something tangible about that the listener could feel. And yeah, I mean, really, it's been a phenomenal reaction to the stories and to the awareness of these real life women who were so incredibly brave and unusual and unsung.
Tell us about the most recent release of Attagirl. Is it Attagirl or ATA Girl?
It's Attagirl.
Yeah.
It's Attagirl too. Yeah, we didn't know if we were going to get a second series because obviously Big Finish has a very particular audience. And yes, Doctor Who listeners are very into the historical side of that programme, but it didn't necessarily follow that they were then going to want to listen to a historical original drama. And so it kind of was dependent on sales, as these things are. You can't invest in a production unless you know you're going to get the money back. or at the very least, ideally, you would make a profit. And so we finally kind of got to that stage with the first series where they realised that it was worthwhile doing a second one. And so we that was pitched to us by David Richardson again, but this time it was a reduction in the budget, so it was a two-parter. And then Louise and I kind of said, all right, well, we can keep this simple and just write it ourselves. Because when you've got other writers on board, it's a fantastic addition to the creative energy, but it's also a lot more to manage. So we felt if we could keep it self-contained, thought we could keep it very streamlined that way.
Do you think that there might be more of these Attagirl series being released, or are you waiting to see how this one gets received?
Well, I mean, obviously the timing of the release of this one has been slightly problematic because it was at the start of a global pandemic. So I don't know that many people are wanting to invest in original audio drama. But I think the longer this goes on, I think the audio drama is such a burgeoning industry, and people will be looking for other forms of entertainment the longer this lockdown continues. But in terms of whether there's more, I don't know. I mean, I think Louise and I feel that we've kind of explored it a lot, and we've told a lot of the stories that we wanted to tell. But of course, if there was a big appetite for more, of course there could be more. And of course, we would be happy to do more.
So I'm trying to get the scoop here. The script that you're working on for 3 years' time, is that one of these Big Finish originals?
No.
No?
No.
So we have to guess.
No. I'm not allowed to say. It's more than my job's worth.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing some of your recollections and insights on the massive work that you do for Big Finish. You're almost one of the originals.
Yeah,
in the Big Finish family. You've been there that long.
I'm one of the first women that was taken on as a director and a writer. I think Lisa Bauman was the first, and then I was one of the early ones as well. And it feels like an enormous privilege. I had a very difficult journey as a performer because I wasn't an archetype. I didn't fit any particular mold, and I always wanted to be constantly challenged, as I've said, and to have landed up in a company that I love so much. The people are wonderful, the projects are wonderful, there's constant creative flow, and I feel very, very privileged to be in the position that I'm in. I worked hard to get here, but I do feel lucky.
From Big Finish Productions, an original drama, Attagirl.
I fell from the sky today! You can't scare me anymore!
Commander.
David, what's wrong?
A Luftwaffe attack force is heading for the airfield. A big one.
Oh, Lord.
We don't have long to prepare.
Officer King, bring the ATA pilots here, please, as quickly as possible.
And you accuse me of heartlessness? This is no time for photographs.
Well, that's where you're wrong. This is exactly what the papers want, what history needs.
Ha! That got you off my back! No! Oh, no! Bail out! She'll be back soon. We'll get you mended.
Oh, Mum!
Of course you do. Look at you. You're changing lives. We're all here doing this incredible job because of you.
Yes, and isn't it wonderful you had to jump out of an airplane whilst being shot at?
Well, that wasn't ideal.
You think you can fix this? You can't repair something like this. It's all broken. You think these people will recover from this? From seeing their friends blown up? I'm afraid I have some very bad news, Officer Lloyd.
What? Oh, no.
I was terribly fond of her. We all were.
The forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. The flags of freedom fly all over Europe. I pray that peace be now restored to the world, and that God will preserve it always.
Big Finish. We love stories.
We certainly do. And a big thank you to Helen Goldwyn for coming on and sharing some of your thoughts and recollections and stories about your time with Big Finish. It truly was a privilege speaking with you, Helen, so thank you so much. And if you want to find out more about Helen, go to helengoldwyn.com and just do a search for Helen on the Big Finish website. You'll get all the projects that she's been involved with, minus, of course, the Tomorrow People, because they're not available anymore. But a huge body of work with Big Finish. So just a reminder, give us your audio feedback at anchor.fm/sirensofaudio. Give us some feedback on The Kingmaker, which will be the subject of our next episode, where I've got guest Mark Cockram from Nerdology UK coming on to chat with me about that, one of his favourite Big Finish audios. And I do have a Facebook page now for the Sirens of Audio, so look us up and join in with the fun, the frivolity, and the love of all things audio. So until next time, remember to listen to audio drama, because audio drama rocks!